Welcome to the Big Picture Festival. Thank you for joining us. I'm Emily from Live and Local, and I'm really thrilled to be joined by the fabulous Tara Rutledge and Mary Courtney for this discussion. Tara and Mary's film Phoenix is available as part of our festival this year, and I'll just give you a bit of information about them if that's okay. Mary is an award-winning poet and artist from Coventry, drawn to the deliciously ridiculous, the beguiling, and the endless variety of the world. She collaborates with librarians, scientists, children, and other artists to make things such as Sponny the Mechanical Fish, poems on pavements, giant community drawings, bleeding books, singing socks, science art, videos, animation, and digital projection. Wow, a bio. And Tara is a visual artist based in Coventry. She has a wide range of artistic influences and loves to experiment with different media, including projection, photography, prose, binaural soundscapes, lighting, and augmented reality. Her work centres around community engagement, and she is keen to bring art out of the gallery and into public spaces. So it is so lovely to have you both with us today. And welcome to Live and Local's Big Picture Festival 2020. How are you?
Oh, good to be here. Good to see you, Emily.
Brilliant.
Thank you for inviting us.
Okay, the first thing I wanted to talk to you both about was how the collaboration came about, how you decided you wanted to work with each other. So if I go to Tara first.
Mary and I met over our love of library. So we actually met at some protests, protesting about the closures of local libraries. And we started talking there, and a collaboration soon formed. I think we're both people who really like to collaborate, work with other artists.
Definitely the libraries that bonded us. I think when you go to collaborate with people, you have to have a sense of trust and some kind of shared values to connect you, to start things off, and we definitely did. Plus, Tara, I'd seen some of your work, and I was really impressed with your aesthetic sense. So I was very pleased when things started moving and we decided to collaborate.
Fantastic. That's really interesting to hear how you met and there was a shared connection, and you had an admiration already for each other's work. Why, and I'll stay with Mary for this, why was it important for you to make this film, not a different one? Why Phoenix?
Well, I think the key thing really is Phoenix is a really important symbol for the city. This idea, the whole story around the Phoenix, the chance for reinvention, rebirth, transformation, change, all those things are really important. It's a very important part of the story of the city. But also as well, the Phoenix sculpture that we would know, Wagstaff's Phoenix, it's been around so long that it's become like furniture. It's the sort of thing that we would walk past and maybe not really think about, and it's been made by a Coventry artist. So as well as the Phoenix being an important story of the city, another story of the city is the artists of the city, and the importance of celebrating the artists that we have. So those were really key things for us in relation to thinking about what could we do around the Phoenix. And it did start with Wagstaff's Phoenix, it developed from there. Initially we were thinking it'd be nice to do a documentary style thing, like the story of how that particular Phoenix, that sculpture, came into being. But it did evolve into something else, and I still think that story needs to be told that we initially thought of.
So there could be a Phoenix Part 2 potentially then.
There could be a Phoenix Part 2, yeah, exactly, indeed.
Most definitely, I'd love that, Mary.
just in case people haven't watched the film yet and they're watching the Q&A first, you know, could you just say, what would you say it was about? What are sort of the themes of Phoenix?
Okay, so it's a poetry film. So Mary wrote a really beautiful poem. And on hearing it, like, it really connected with me. And I think the first thing we thought as well was looking at other things in the city, other images of the Phoenix and other areas and buildings that connect with that kind of rebirth and regeneration. So obviously we were drawn immediately to the cathedral, both the old and the new in Coventry. And we did a lot of our filming there. But we also went to meet with George Wagstaff to hear his story of the Phoenix, what it was based upon and everything behind it. And I think you'll see within the film, anybody watching, that there's actually some images of the Phoenix in its wooden, was it a wooden cast, Mary?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, works, yes, wooden.
So that is actually in George Wagstaff's garden. And over time, it's got mottled and moss growing on it. And for me, it's even more beautiful than the Phoenix statue that we see in the city centre, because it's become so organic. It's also sadly lost its wings. And I don't know if that's almost like a little metaphor in there somehow. But yeah, when you see it, I think it really kind of connected in with the poetry. So yeah.
That's fantastic, because I was going to say Mary touched on George Wagstaff's art, and people watching may not be familiar with his name, but they may well have seen his sculptures in a number of city centres, actually Coventry of course being one of them. So I wondered, you know, you said that you got to go to his garden and see that wonderful statue. Could you tell us a bit more about that meeting, and also you know, how the Phoenix wood carving was depicted in the film?
Sure. It was great going to see George in his own territory, and he was a very young man when he did the Phoenix sculpture. I mean, it was unveiled in 1962, the one that we have in the precinct, so it's been around for a long time. And to hear him talking about how it came into being was really, really fascinating. Because there was a lot of politics involved. You're involved in the art world, you know, there's a lot of politics. But the politics, it was very interesting in relation to how the head of the statue that he's done, the sculpture he's done, is positioned, bowed down. And the people who were commissioning him to do the work wanted something that was more triumphant. It was after the war. It was to coincide with the brand new precinct, and they wanted to have more of a sense of triumph and triumphalism. But George, being the thoughtful man that he is, was thinking, well, this wants to convey so much more, almost a kind of sense of humility and loss as well, as the possibility for change and rebirth. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And I much prefer his vision of things rather than a kind of like, oh, we've scored a goal, arms raised up sort of situation. But because of the politics side of things, he never even went to the unveiling, and they had, I think it was the Princess Margaret came, you know, for the unveiling of the statue. But it stood the test of time. It's still a very, very powerful piece of work. The statue in the precinct is untouched by time. The look of it, the bronze, is untouched by time. But you felt seeing the carving that this carving almost had been through so much. It's like a human, you know. It's lived. It's had its experience etched on it, carved into it by the elements, and it was very, very powerful. And I think I mean, Tara has got a great eye, as I said earlier, and she took some fabulous footage of that, which was used in the film. And in a way, it's really strange to think this is an inanimate object could convey so much emotion, but I think it did. It just looked like something that had been influenced and changed by time.
That's a really lovely way of looking at it. Obviously, you know, most of us aren't going to be able to go to his garden and see that one, but certainly for me, you know, walking past the one in Coventry, which is also where I live, we've got a very Coventry cast here today. You know, you're right, we get used to seeing things, and you know, you think, oh, there's the angel, and you carry on walking. You know, next time I will look at it very differently. Particularly in relation to, you know, how you've talked about, yes, it was you know, the phoenix rising from the ashes, but at the same time you have to appreciate that the loss and the other emotions that go with that. It's not, you know, it's not pure celebration. That's fantastic, because you feature quite a few iconic images in the film. You also feature the stone carving man's struggle.
The Walter Ritchie Man's Struggle, which is the stone relief that's attached now to the Herbert Gallery. It used to be elsewhere in the precinct. Again, another Coventry artist did this amazing work. I was very, very keen to have this in the film, and I was so happy that Tara shared this feeling that it should be in the film, because so much of the Coventry story in relation to the Phoenix is all about the Blitz and the, you know, the devastation and the rebuilding and so on after that. Whereas to me, I wanted to have a well, together, myself and Tara, to have a sort of a fresher eye, if you like, a different angle on the Phoenix, and the sense that we all struggle because we're human. It is the nature of being alive. It's not always easy, and we have to do difficult things and make changes, and as I say, it's sometimes that's very difficult. And man's struggle, that amazing stone relief, it's got monsters in it, multi-headed hydra monsters, skulls. One poor guy looks like he's having his penis removed by an eagle. There's things that are conveyed that relate to our internal struggles and things we have to do in life that are tricky. I thought, well, yeah, that's just perfect. That's just perfect for conveying the sense that we have struggle, but we can overcome things. We can be the Phoenix. We can be. It's not, a Phoenix isn't just this isolated story symbol. It's not just George Wagstaff's sculpture. It's not just Coventry Cathedral. The Phoenix is us, every one of us. And I thought that his amazing work, which was beautifully animated by Diana Quiche, really managed to convey that.
Yeah, beautiful. And you have captured the emotion, you know, it is an emotive film, even though, you know, a lot of the things are inanimate objects, essentially. And Tara, you've used the stained glass window and the carved glass in the cathedral, which is, of course, one of the most iconic Coventry scenes, really, isn't it? You know, when people come to visit, they see the cathedrals, but the stained glass is a huge part of that. Can you talk us through that process of capturing it, you know, in video form?
Oh, I can't tell you the ridiculous squeal of delight that Mary and I had when we managed to capture some of those images, because we literally stood for hours in that cathedral just to get the right shots. And there's one scene in the film just as the light is coming up. So we had to get there like really early in the morning for filming, because just to try and capture that light. And there's just one shot. And thankfully, obviously, we have the poem over it. But if you hear the original, it's just me being like, look, Mary, look. Because I'm so excited that we've actually got the right shot. because the light in there just changes all the time. If you speak to anybody that works in the cathedral, they will just tell you, please, like, come in at different hours of the day, because as the light moves around the building, it really changes how those
Yeah.
windows look and how the reflections on the floor even. But I think also for me, unfortunately, after we made the film, those etched glass windows at the front, one of them was actually damaged due to the cathedral being broken into, and now boarded up, and they're repairing it. So I think for me, actually capturing those windows there has got even more meaning now.
I think all of us in Coventry, we heard that news. The cathedral is very special to us, you know, as a place of worship, but also more than that, for what it stands for, the renewal, you know, the phoenix as a symbol. That cathedral is, you know, was our city rising back against the awful destruction, and for that to be targeted and damaged was upsetting. But as you say, you've captured it, and now to see that it's being rebuilt, it's rising again, it says a lot about the city and the people. So that's very poignant. And of course, you've mentioned, you know, Mary's poem and your images, and we've talked a lot about the images in it. How do you merge those two worlds? How do you bring those two things together? You know, which came first, the poem or the idea or the images? How does that all go together?
I think we started off with an idea, and then we talked about the phoenix and a lot of things together. Then we went to visit George, and then Mary came up with the poem. And as soon as she sent me it, I was just like, whoa. And immediately it like started pinging images in my head. And the cathedral have been amazing. Massive thank you to them for the amount of time that they allowed us to spend there, just to really invest days of walking around and just talking to people there and just picking up the atmosphere. And then the time that we spent in town as well. I don't know if you notice on the soundscape, if you listen quite carefully, you can hear a recording of people walking past. So we really wanted to like capture that sound of people walking past the phoenix every day, and just what the phoenix hears as a statue, what it captures. So yeah, I think it was a real kind of culmination. It wasn't just me coming up with the images, it was definitely Mary as well. It was a real collaboration, but we spent a lot of time in the city centre and visited lots of other kind of phoenix representations as well.
Thank you. And how was it like for you, Mary, going along and, you know, you both trying to put images to your words?
I like the surprise. I like surprises, the unexpected. And I think when you collaborate and you're not exactly sure what is going to happen, because you haven't got a fixed, definite idea of things, then you can be responsive. And so yeah, I really liked that process. Yeah, what can I say? It just felt a bit like magic, really. You know, just seeing it happen, and just seeing how much more powerful words can be when they're with images. And also there was the pure ecstasy of waiting for so long for the perfect shot, and being able to share it when Tara got it, you know what I mean? So I suppose that those things are amplified if you're not doing something on your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And it's obviously a very successful collaboration. You know, we loved it. I've watched it several times myself. So it's really interesting to hear how closely you did work together on that. It's a short film, of course, but it is a very short film. And it does seem to be a genre really that's risen in popularity over the years, you know, particularly with sort of poetry. But for both filmmakers to create them and viewers wanting to watch them, you know, personally, with the busyness of life, I really like this length of a film. And you know, my background, of course, is in poetry, and the shorts feel like the poetry of the filmmaking world in that way, you know, the poignant, short, detailed, but very beautiful works of art, really. So do you find that there's a strong appetite for these sort of films? And, you know, where else has Phoenix been shown, for instance?
Well, we were very, very pleased that the Coventry Cathedral put it up as the header on their Facebook page.
Wow.
So it's been there for since about March, I think, and it's still there. And
Oh, we shouldn't mention it, Mary. They'll remember and take it down.
I know, I take it down. I have to. Do you know what, Tara? I was just thinking that en route, thinking, oh, be quiet, because it's so nice
How
to
many
have it.
views
So
has
nice.
it had now? Do you know?
It went up to it was counting up to about 18,000 views, and then Facebook stopped counting it, and then I thought to myself, that is stopping us being vain. This is a signal from above to stop
looking,
and just thinking, oh, look how many views we've had.
But that's still pretty impressive, and I think that's down to the length of it, and I think it makes it very accessible for people. That's part of the reason that we did make it shorter, was that you know, as you say, people with such busy lifestyles at the moment, you know, you see something 5-10 minutes long, are you actually going to stop and watch the whole thing? And I think once you start with something that's short, but there is a poem that's got a flow, you're going to stay in there and watch the whole thing if it's just a few minutes long. But I also think it opens it up to people who don't necessarily like poetry or aren't huge film fans. It's that crossover. So keeping it short and sweet, I think is the right thing to do.
And to be honest, it would work equally well without having the sound on as well. Do you know what I mean? Just through the visual imagery,
and vice versa.
So it gives an option. But it was shown in the cathedral as well, just right in front of the tapestry, Emily. And I tell you what, I was so happy to see it in the cathedral, being shown there. So they're the main places. Obviously, the festival this weekend, which we're very chuffed that it's going to be shown.
What a place, though. You know, you say that was the main. You know, what a place to have your work shown as an artist, and of course for Tara as a filmmaker. It's a stunning location to have. The industry, and I mean really the film industry, is, you know, it's quite male heavy is probably the best way of putting it. You know, it's very male dominated industry, and it was beautiful here to see that we got an all-female collaboration, a female filmmaker, a female writer just working on this. So would you say, you know, Tara, are there opportunities for females to work in the film industry, and how could, you know, people watching, film lovers, support the work of female directors, writers like Mary, producers? You know, what would you say about that, Tara?
Oh, there's 100% lots and lots of opportunities. So it was an all-female production. Also our two animators, Lavi and Dana, and then my co-editor Victoria as well, and quite international too, because Victoria was actually over in Germany at the time, so she was editing remotely, and this was even before lockdown, so we were doing things over Zoom then. It was really great to work with such fantastic women. But yeah, there's plenty of opportunity. Things may be a little male dominant in the film industry, but there is absolutely nothing to stop women. And I lecture at Coventry University in media production. We have a lot of female students, obviously. And just get out there. I would say to anybody, just be making stuff and be sharing it. Don't think, oh, my work's not good enough, you know, it needs to look like some Hollywood blockbuster. If you don't share it, if you don't show it, nobody will see it, and you'll never improve, you'll never get any feedback. So go out there, film things, write things, and get sharing it, especially online as well. It's a great way to get your stuff out there, to get some feedback. Look at festivals like this and start entering your stuff.
Brilliant, thank you. And Mary, how can viewers make sure they're supporting the work of up and coming writers and filmmakers?
Obviously, if anyone's listening who has their own business and a bit of spare money, I mean, that's usually the difficulty people have been supported. So supporting local artists financially is fantastic if that's an option. But to be honest, we can all encourage each other. We can all encourage each other, because that is that makes a huge difference. I've been involved in an online group, Sitting Rooms of Culture, and lots of collaborations are happening through that, because people are sharing their creations and finding things to link with each other. But also importantly, people are getting lots of positive feedback and encouragement. And I think we can all do something about and it has to be sincere though. Yeah, you know, the encouragement has to be sincere, otherwise it's meaningless. But we can encourage each other with our words and with our actions.
That's brilliant. It's so important at the moment, especially with things being a lot more online. You know, there's all those discussions about how to talk to people online and things, isn't there? You know, kindly make sure that we're doing that. But yeah, I think that's really, really nice that you know, you be sincere, but there is usually something good in everything, isn't there? Every piece of work you can see there's something good about it that can be encouraged and developed. And of course, you've mentioned there Sitting Rooms of Culture. That came about, I believe, at the, you know, in March, at the start of the pandemic. Is that correct?
It did come as a response to the pandemic, just as a way for creatives to support each other and the wider community through the whole creative thing, sharing, supporting.
Yeah. Because it's a Facebook
online
group, isn't it? And it's called Sitting Rooms of Culture.
Yeah, it just started off as an idea, a conversation. Kirsty Brewerton had this notion. She had a conversation with me. Then we decided that we were going to try and do something about it. Got 2 other local creatives on board: Paul Curtis, Mr. Coventry himself, the Deep Fact Friar, and Heather Davison, and together, you know, we put our heart and soul, to be honest, into building the group, and it's just based on the philosophy that that creativity is important for our well-being, our essential selves, and that we all can be creative. We can all be creative. So let's encourage each other. So one of the things that's actually come out of that thing, I say, it's only like 7 or 8 months ago. It's a book called Yesterday's Diary, and it's got stories and poems from 117 people from all over the city and a bit other parts of Warwickshire as well. You've got people who were nursing, people who were shielding. This whole tapestry of life is there, and it's lovely, because where else are you going to get professional writers and poets, well-established quality poets, rubbing shoulders with school kids, people who only took a pen during lockdown, and we're all in there, all in that one book together. And it was such a fantastic community effort, because the book has actually been paid for through sponsorship from the local community and through crowdfunding. So all in all, I've totted it up. Over 250 people have been involved in getting this book.
It's a real community effort. So, of course, the book is made up of people from Coventry and Warwickshire and their stories, but I should imagine it has, from what I've seen of it anyway, it has a wider appeal because we all sort of experienced similar things, didn't we? There will be a story in there that is relatable to somebody, you know, living in Staffordshire or Lincolnshire, for instance.
Sure.
They would still feel the same emotions and experiences potentially as the people in that book. And of course, Sitting Rooms of Culture, the group, people can still join it if they're from Coventry and Warwickshire on Facebook. But I should imagine there might be other communities that have got similar things. And if not, if someone's watching this and they feel inspired by it, it could be something that they could come and have a look at your group and see if they could set up something for their area, maybe.
That'd be wonderful. I mean, if that does relate to you, I mean, it is. We've found it's just been such a wonderful way for people to connect with each other, and also it's inadvertently become a showcase for the incredible amount of creativity in the city and nearby.
So that's brilliant, and it's come about because obviously of something that was quite an awful time for many people. Tara, how have you found that COVID has affected your work or changed it?
I think it's just made me try and think more creatively. So I do quite like having restrictions around my work. So this has definitely added to it, making things more digital, but I think it's also made things a lot more accessible for some people, and people are getting to view my work that wouldn't normally have seen it because more of it's online. It's made me think more about audio and soundscapes. I've been investigating binaural sound recording, where you record with microphones that are almost inside your ears, so that the sound, when you listen back to it on headphones, it comes to you as it would exactly to the person. So I can be standing here and you would know where I was standing
That's
as I was
incredible.
speaking to you. I applied to do a nest residency with Talking Birds. If there's artists out there that need any support at the moment, it's definitely worth looking on Talking Birds website for the nest residencies. And this gave me a couple of weeks with some support. Was able to investigate binaural recording more and complete writing a short story that I wrote called Hide and Seek. It's all set in a small cupboard. And obviously the sense of isolation kind of connects in with lockdown, but it also has some themes of domestic abuse as well, which obviously has been quite prominent with those kinds of things getting worse during lockdown as well. So yeah, I think it's brought things and ideas to me, lockdown has, and it's given me a bit more time to concentrate on work.
So that, again, there's positives in there for you. It's been a different time, a challenging time, but a productive one by the sounds of it.
Most definitely.
I thought we'd finish on just asking you both really what's next for you in your, you know, career-wise, of course, with your filmmaking, your writing. So I'll stay with you, Tara, because we're already there, and then I'll go to Mary for that.
Well, I've been working, like I say, on this project Hide and Seek with the binaural sound recording, but I've also been working on a project in Norsemill Park where I've been looking at images of the past there and trying to recreate those over images of now. I've got an idea to kind of develop some work there with the community. I've also been taking cuttings in the park because some of the plants and trees that are in there are now 111 years old because the park opened in 1909. So it's really amazing to think that I might have took a clipping from something that's that old and like kind of regenerating it. And I'd love to work with the community to do some more of that and just to look back at the park's history, because it used to be so full and vibrant. I mean, it's busy now, But if you look back at images, it was just absolutely rammed on the weekends. They had a bandstand, and everybody would be out in their Sunday best with their parasols and sailing little boats on the pond and everything. So I think a lot of people that walk through it now have no idea how it used to look or how it used to be used. So I'd love to kind of reveal that a little bit.
That sounds brilliant as well. It sounds in a way like it has a few similarities to Phoenix, you know, with that idea of history and rebirth, of course, as well. So I wish you the best of luck with that. You'll have to keep us in touch with it. And Mary, what else have you got? It sounds obviously you've got a lot going on at the moment with the book launch and things. What else personally with your writing have you got going on?
I want to resume doing, I don't know if you can see the screen, like a giant handmade book. I want to make some more pages for a giant handmade book, and it's going to be. I've done months of research on it before lockdown, and that's what I was going to be doing, but you know, got derailed slightly. And it's going to be called To Coventry, and the contents pages would read like a poem, which I won't read out, but it will be, for example, to Coventry by sun and to Coventry by sea. So it'd be a way of exploring the city in an unusual way, because say to Coventry by sea, we've got absolutely loads of maritime references on the buildings in the city. We've got fishes in the cathedral, we've got lobsters on the council house. There's so many ways to explore a city. And this is a unique way of exploring the city. You know, we've got peace trails, we've got all these sorts of different trails around the city. But you could explore it through, you know, a particular word that doesn't feel like it fits with the city, but there can be lots of references within it. So I'm interested in putting something together visually around that, and I really want to get a couple of more pages of that done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sold already, because when you said Coventry by sea, I was wondering how you were going to achieve that one. But when you start putting the images in, it makes complete sense. I just want to thank you both so much for being part of Live and Local's Big Picture Festival 2020. It's been absolutely fascinating. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. I think there's one last question that I have to ask, because I think viewers would be upset if I didn't. And Tara, what is the name of your cat who made a wonderful appearance during our conversation?
I'm so sorry. She manages to sneak in every single time that I'm on Zoom. She just loves the camera. Her name's Mittens because she's got little white paws.
Oh, that is beautiful. Never apologise for animals coming in and stealing the show. They are very welcome. So thank you so much to both of you, and thank you to our viewers at home for supporting us again this year. And Mary and Tara's film Phoenix is of course available to view right now as a part of our Big Picture Festival.